Hi, I'm Christopher Miles, and I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm part of Antioch New Orleans here, and I'm also a public school teacher. I wanted to share today about abiding in Jesus and how it produced creativity in the workplace. And so I want to first start with me being a public school teacher. There is a lot of policies around religion being displayed in the classroom, but with the gift of prophecy, man, I've just seen God just show up and present and translate through the language of my activities, his heart and the presence of heaven being all around us. And I remember this story with my preschoolers when it was COVID and we couldn't go on a playground and we kind of had to be creative. And I had this bucket of scarves that I gave individual scarves to the kids and I say, hey, just follow me. So we're doing all these wacky dances and stuff, and then I just get a picture and think, man, let's just run around, like just follow me. And so I had these kids follow me and we are doing crazy stuff, and then in my head I was just like, man, well, I really want them to experience freedom in their life. And so I just had them yell out freedom, and so all the kids behind me saying freedom. And so it's a really beautiful picture because I'm in my heart, I'm just praying, Lord, let them experience freedom in their lives. Let them not miss you in their lives. And they are getting blessed without them even knowing it. And man, I also remember one of the neighbors, because I teach outside, they say, hey, we see what you're doing over there. You're doing a great job. And so I always get encouraged by that. And just many moments like that of just God translating our activities into what heaven looks like, what the Father heart looks like. Also, an example of that is that, man, as a PE teacher, I have them being together and interacting with each other. Like no other class. They have to learn how to say sorry and have conflict and all these different things. And so I just felt like God was just saying, hey, display reconciliation for these kids. And so I have many times where kids would come up to me and say, hey, this person did this to me, and I have them walk it out. I say, hey, bring that person here. Don't hold it in. Don't try to fix it yourself. Like really, like address that with that person. And so, for example, in my third grade class, there's a group of girls that are having gossiping and bullying issues, and we just had to squash it and bring them all together. And we had them all individually share what has been going on. And then by the end of it, man, it was a huge thing to see them hugging each other, seeing them saying, I'm sorry, and having them repenting of all the things that they have done, and walk out from then on reconciliation. And just seeing kids forgive, man, and just knowing that is the way to have a relationship with people, and practice that over and over and over, because it just so many things that they find fault with each other, but it's just cool to start seeing that they learn to lay down forgiveness as being one of the ways of having relationships. And so other ways that God has been displaying his love and through creativity in the workplace, I've just seen God's response to the struggles that my teachers have been going through. And but God would first encounter me first, and I just have time with him. And I just had this picture one time where God said that he's given the teachers at my school a second wind. And I was like, whoa, okay, Lord, what does that look like? And I felt like he said, like, see if you can gather and ask and see if you can gather teachers on your campus and see if they will want to pray and pretty much have a house of prayer on campus. And I'm just like so bubbly of like trying to figure this out, but I was like, man, I want to honor this place and not go over anybody's head. So I wanted to ask my principal first. And so I went in and said, God, if you want this to happen, you would give me favor with my principal. And I remember asking her, man, could I gather people like teachers to pray over the campus? She was like, man, I wish you could do that on the announcements every morning to pray over our campus. And I was like, wow, that's cool. And she has my back. And so we were able for a whole semester and just to have a second win to finish off the year to be praying once a week. And it was awesome. We encountered God in such a powerful way. I remember one teacher coming up to me at the end of it was like, man, I've been going to Catholic church my whole life, and I've encountered God way more in these 15 minutes than a whole hour of mass at church. And so, man, I was just really thankful for the Lord that day that he wants to respond to what is going on at my workplace. And it just all it takes is me to give him time and say yes to it. And so to kind of finish off, man, I think that's something that God has also been trying to do recently. Because I remember this one time I went home after school and it's been a hard week. And I felt like God was trying to search my heart and exposing bitterness in my heart, and He was turning me to thankfulness. And so I took a moment, and I gave God all the things that was in my heart at the moment, and I felt His love. And but I went home after that because I was at a coffee shop. I went home and I saw the news, and that's the day that that school got shut up in Texas, and my heart was sunk at that point. I was just like, how could I ever be bitter? How can I be so ungrateful about my life when I actually have life? And I'm just like, man, this is just not right. And I'm just thinking, man, this is not normal too. And this is also something that I feel like is just a spirit over at my school. And so, like, God, what is our response? What could we do? And I felt like I just needed to text my principal, and I texted her with just some of my thoughts and how I just feel like, man, if we can choose thankfulness or get a way to tell the kids to just choose thankfulness, man, we can shift our atmosphere at our school. And I didn't think much of it after I texted her. I was just, kind of in the spirit at the point, and yeah, and so she actually the next day on announcements shared everything that was in my text to the whole school, and encouraging the kids to choose thankfulness, to think of a couple things that they were thankful for. And I saw it as an opportunity because I have all the kids come to my class. I'm the only teacher that has that as a PE teacher. And so when every grade came into my class, I had a poster on the board for their grade, and having them raise their hand, say, hey, what are we thankful for? And I wrote it, all the things that they were thankful for. And I also remember this one moment that it was so beautiful. My kindergarten class, one of the kids in the front said that they were thankful for God. And so I was like, I'm going to write that we're thankful for our faith. And as I'm writing that down, she then begins to start sharing the gospel to everyone in class. And I'm not going to stop her because somebody next to her asked her about, like, what do you mean by God? And she shared the whole gospel, how Jesus died for her and her sins. And I'm, like, turned around writing this on the board. I am weeping. I'm like, yes, God. Like, you're making your presence known on this campus. And so at the end of the day, I took those posters from every grade and I put them all around the school. And then the next day, the principal saw it, the teacher saw it, everyone is coming to me and saying, man, I am so thankful that you did that. And I get to start to see that what I am thankful for individually. And man, God is just so great in how He's creatively just want to spread His love in a place that it's not necessarily known to do that in a public school where I can, do that. But anyways, my last thing I wanted to share, because this was the last thing that I got to do before the school was over this year, I had my fifth graders, and these fifth grade class was probably my favorite class of all time. They were there when COVID hit in third grade, and then they went to fourth grade in 2020 to 2021 year, and then for now fifth grade this year, they graduated. And but the last day I was like, man, I really want to bless them. I want to encourage them. And God, what should I do? And I feel like He just told me to do a certificate of encouragement for every student, individual student. I had about 46 kids. And so I wrote individual things, so like one thing that I thought of about them and in a way to just explain it. And I put it on a certificate, on 46 certificates. And at the end of that day, the last day of school, I gave it to them individually, and it was really hard because I almost cried sharing these encouragements with them, and I left it with that. I blessed them at the end because it took the whole day, and then I didn't think anything of it after that. But the next day, they had their award ceremony, and their parents came. And I wasn't able to make it, but I found out that all the parents were looking for me because they were wondering who was the one who wrote these encouragements about my kid. And so I really felt encouraged by that because I was like, man, I really got to put a stamp of the Father heart of God. Because I feel like that was the biggest point of me being a teacher, is not that I say the right things or, have the most fun, but that I get to portray the Father heart of God, that they know the Father heart of God loves them. He desires for them to have their best and all these different things, and believes about them, and that He's also a safe place, that the Father God is a safe place, that they know that. And so I felt like, man, I really did get to make that step if the parents knew and were encouraged by that. And so yeah, that's all the things I wanted to say. I hope that you go and let God do what He wants to do in you, that He may pour it out around your workplace, that you will abide in Him in everything that you do, and that it will produce the fruit that's more than you can ask for.